morning, everyone. My name is Tina Chang, and I'd like to welcome you to the first session of our Fall 2021 online learning series. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your time with the University of St. Thomas this morning. Today's session is titled Leveraging Strengths to Enhance Team Performance, and we're very fortunate to have University of St. Thomas adjunct faculty Brent Hafele leading us through this interesting topic to kick off our fall series. Before I give Brent an introduction and hand things over to him, I want to remind you of our plans for the remainder of the calendar year. On December 14th, we will have Robert Vischer, the Dean at the University of St. Thomas School of Law, presenting a session on an introduction to religious liberty. If you've been enjoying our previous sessions or enjoy the session today, please invite your colleagues to join us for this next event. I truly believe it will be an enlightening experience. Now, as we transition to the main event, I have just a couple of notes of instruction. Brent has reserved time at the end of his presentation to respond to your questions, so feel free to use the chat feature to ask questions at any time during the session. Please address them to all the panelists. I will hold all the questions for the end. Our goal is to wrap up this entire session by 8:55 Central Time to allow you some passing time before your next meeting. If you have any technical difficulties this morning, please know that the session is being recorded and you will receive a link to the video a few business days from now. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce Brent Hafele. Early in his career as an executive director and a development director, Brent experienced firsthand the demands of providing effective nonprofit leadership while reaching strategic and fundraising goals. In 2008, Brent began his own consulting practice, New Day Nonprofit Solutions. In 2016, he sold his practice to the prominent fundraising consulting firm, Dickerson Baker, and joined them as a vice president. He worked his way up to lead the consulting team as a senior vice president of talent development. Brent has consulted over 120 nonprofit agencies spanning nearly every major nonprofit category. Brent's mission is to unlock the potential of leaders so that they and their followers may live more vibrant, loving, and impactful lives. He has a special ability to earn trust quickly and is a cultural catalyst, curator, and guardian dedicated to ensuring safety, inclusion, and equity for all. Brent does not believe in a one-size-fits-all solution. Instead, he gets in the trenches to fully understand his colleagues and clients. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague, Brent Hafele.
Well, thank you, Tina, and good morning to everyone. It is an honor to be here and a great opportunity to talk about teams and leveraging teams and how to connect and grow with your team itself. Let me share just a couple other things that may bring some of this into context. I am a Gallup Certified CliftonStrenghts Coach, and that's probably my biggest professional passion has become coaching and engaging with people and helping them to reach their God-given potential, to grow at a higher level. And I love the opportunity to help people improve their performance. I have recently made a job transition, and so I'm now a vice president at an organization called Lead Like Jesus, which is a Christian leadership development organization that works in 27 or 25 different countries at this time. It was founded by Ken Blanchard. And so I'm engaged with that with fundraising, but I'm also engaged in the coaching program there and helping to build that leadership development movement. So it is a pleasure to be here, and I have. I'm also very grateful to the University of St. Thomas. I have been on faculty for 8 years now, and I love working with St. Thomas. There's great people, including Tina and the team. So it's great to be here. Today we're going to be talking about strengths, and how to leverage your strengths in a team environment and engage in a team environment. And so we're going to be engaging in some things that are exciting and really a way to leverage wherever you work. And everyone that's on this call works in a team. Your team might be your family. Your team could be an office team. Your team could be, even if you're a solo entrepreneur and you're a solo practitioner of some sort, your team could be with your clients and with your customers. Your team could be your neighborhood association or your housing association. So there's lots of different places that we engage in teams. And when we understand our personal strengths and when we understand the strengths of others, we can be far more effective in how we engage with the world. And so Ralph Waldo Emerson's quote here, what lies behind us and what lies before us are small matters to what lies within us. And so really it has to do with what we have inside of ourselves and how we engage in that way. So in the chat, would you put one positive word that describes you? Throw that in the chat right now. I'd love to hear some of the words that, just one positive word that describes who you are or what you are. And so I'm starting to see Diane says cheerful. Oh, I love that. I'd like to meet you, Diane. That sounds great. Janet is friendly. Melissa says personable. Anna says calming. Carol says positive. Becky says positive. We've got another friendly from Kelly Meyer. Compassionate, thoughtful. Kate says thoughtful. We've got optimistic from Nancy. Connected from Cynthia. Esther says intuitive and empathetic. Jessica's dependable. We've got in here, wow, we've got lots of good answers in there. Elizabeth says connected with many. Todd Peterson says easygoing. And Tom says trustworthy. So we've got a lot of different words to describe. And some of them are the same, some of them are different. But each of you uses those words and you bring different meaning to those words based on who you are and what you're passionate about. So the key to success is to fully understand how to apply your greatest talents and strengths to your everyday life. Now, here's the crazy cool thing about Clifton Strengths and about knowing, and not just Clifton Strengths, but positive psychology, is that people who are engaged in their strengths, sorry, I need to adjust my screen just 1 second here. It's taking all my screen width there because I've got all these photos across the top. People who focus on using their strengths are 3 times as more likely to have an excellent quality of life. So if you know what your strengths are, if you know who you are and what you are, you're more likely to have a higher level of quality of life. And I have experienced that myself. I recently, COVID has we all have a COVID story, and we all have a story to engage based on this pandemic, whether we've had it or not. And so part of my COVID story is that I was at Dickerson Baker and just kind of feeling a kind of a holy discontent, if that makes any sense, where I had a good job. I liked the organization. I liked what I was doing, but I felt like there was more that I could be doing. And so I ended up starting to work on, and I had a friend that recommended, why don't you work on a personal mission statement? And I've been told to do that. Lots of people have engaged, oh, you should write a mission statement. You should write a mission statement. And I've never done it. Been passionate about leadership for years. I've known that you should write a mission statement, never did it. And but this was the impetus. I'm like, I should write a mission statement. And I started working on this last fall. And the mission statement that I came up with was to unlock the God-given potential of leaders so that they and their followers may live more vibrant, loving, and impactful lives. That was what I was passionate about. And I looked at that, and I looked at what I was doing at Dickerson Baker, and I said, can I do this job description here? Absolutely. Can I do it at St. Thomas? Absolutely. Can I do it at, working the checkout, the cashier at McDonald's? Of course, I can do that in lots of different places. Can I do it better somewhere else? And the answer was yes. And so that actually created a job shift for me, not because I was unhappy with what I was doing, but because I had an opportunity to go someplace that would give me an even higher quality of life. People who focus on their strengths are 6 times more likely to engage in their jobs as well. They're more effective, they're more productive, they're more engaged. Now, the research, and this is research that has been done for several decades now. There's over 34 studies that talk about the strengths and how they engage. So this is not just it's not like a poll that comes out of a magazine. This is highly researched scientific information. But people who work in their strength zone look forward to going to work. They have more positive than negative interactions with coworkers. That sounds really good. They treat their customers, donors, volunteers, colleagues better because they know who they are and they're comfortable in who they are, and so they're less threatened. They tell their friends they work for a great organization, and they have a greater level of engagement in that way. They achieve more on a daily basis, and they have more positive, creative, and innovative moments. But it doesn't just help the individual. It can also help teams. And so let's think about who's on this call today. Jordan's going to put up a poll, and let's take a look at who are you and who's on this call right now. And so here are the questions that the poll is going to be asking. If you always, or if you almost always talk to people in grocery stores, on elevators, airplanes, wherever you happen to go. There are people who do that. Check the box, yes, if you always or almost always have a color-coded or otherwise organized closet. Are you an organizer where everything is nice and organized and structured? Check the box if you almost always write down a list of things to do and stick to it even on the weekend. Some of you are going to say yes, some of you are going to say no. If you almost always need to pick someone up pick someone to race while you're driving, maybe you're very competitive in that way. These are different people. If you almost always tend to ask too many questions, so you're the one that's always raising your hand and you're like, I got another question. I need to know more. Can you help me understand that? That need for input is really important to you. Or if you almost always push the elevator button to remind the elevator that you're there. Hello, I need to go. Let's go. Those are different styles and different formats. So Jordan, can we throw the poll results up? So what we see in this poll, so those that about half of you always talk to people wherever you go. And so there are different types of people. Some of you, you're on an airplane and you are the person that looks next to you and you're like, hi, how you doing? And you start up a conversation with them. Some of you might be like me, where you put your Bose headphones on and you kind of go into your little cocoon and you're like, okay, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to anybody. And so you'll see a difference there. Some are very organized and very structured. I'm definitely a yes on the organized and structured side. My wife is a no, and so that's a challenge that the two of us deal with and manage. Do you almost always write down a list of things to do? And for this list, some of you that said yes, and in the chat box, you can even throw in the chat box. If you're one of these people, it wouldn't surprise me, or some of you probably are the type that you write your list out, you engage in your weekend, and then at the end, or as you're going through the weekend, you realize, I just finished this, but I never wrote it down on my list. And so that you go down and you write it down on your list and then you check it off right away. And so some of you are probably that type of individual who loves lists in that way. Others are very competitive and have that competition drive. There's a few of you that are that way, but not a lot. And so that actually fits some of the Gallup research as well. When we look at CliftonStrenghts and some of those that have competition is actually one of the most rare of the CliftonStrenghts that are out there. Do you almost always tend to ask too many questions? There's some folks that do, and there's some folks that don't. And then as far as reminding the elevator, we've got to go. I've got a challenge. I've got something I've got to work on. And so that's part of that process as well. We're all different people. And so what is a talent? Everyone has talent. Talent is a naturally recurring pattern of thought, feeling, or behavior that can be productively applied. And I want to highlight that word can. Can is the really important one. And so within that can, it doesn't mean that it always is productively applied. It's just available to be applied. However, a strength is one that is consistently productively applied. And what you do is you invest in that strength, you invest in that talent to become a strength. So examples of talent: effortlessly and instinctively starting conversations. You're just really easy to talk to and easy to get a conversation going with. Thinking in an orderly or timely manner, easily and naturally influencing others. You walk in a room and people start following you, or they're attracted to you in some way. You may be the type of person that looks at a set of data and is able to make it meaningful quickly and make it powerful quickly, to be able to use data to turn it into information, to turn it into power. You might be the type of person that consistently has that powerful outlook, and we certainly heard that in the chat. There's a number of you that said you're positive or you're optimistic or something on that idea. And some might say, oh no, that's just a cheery disposition for you. But Gallup goes so far as to say that's actually a talent, to be able to be optimistic, to be positive, because people need that. People need that to move forward. Strengths don't just help individuals, though. They also help teams. And this is where it's really exciting, because if you have one person who's engaging in the strengths and you have another person who's engaging in the strengths and they work together, there's actually a synergistic effect to that, or a beneficial effect. So people who learn to use their strengths every day have a 7.8% greater productivity on average. So you're going to see that bump because they know who they are and they know what they are. And so that team will realize the benefits. And teams that receive strengths feedback have 8.9% greater profitability. They also have higher levels of sales. They have higher levels of team engagement. And so there's a lot of benefits to knowing what your strengths are and knowing who you are and how you work. This all started when Don Clifton asked this very simple question: what will happen when we think about what is right with people rather than fixating on what is wrong with them? And if you think about it, you have your child comes home from school with the report card. And as a society, we tend to look and we see, okay, so there's 4 A's, 2 B's, and a C minus. And what do we end up talking to the child about? Do we talk about the A's? Well, we tend to talk about the C minus. And so Clifton's looking at this and saying, well, what if we flipped this? What if we spent the time focusing on the A's and says, how do we make an A an A plus? So for me personally, I will never be brilliant at spreadsheets. I will never be brilliant at spreadsheets. I'm good. I can do them. I can fight my way through them. I'm never going to be efficient. I'm never going to be brilliant at them. My mind does not think in that quantitative way. It just doesn't connect as well. So I can get all sorts of training. University of St. Thomas is amazing. They have great instructors. Their best instructors can work with me. And can I improve? My C minus in spreadsheets can probably bump up to maybe a B. But not a lot of people are going to be paying for B-level spreadsheet work. They want A-level or A-plus or A++ spreadsheet work, data work. And so this is what Clifton is saying, is why don't we engage in people who are successful? So the idea is to identify and maximize your talents. Clifton Strengths is a code. It's like a DNA that actually opens your awareness to unique talents. And I'm going to show a video that just engages a little bit and shows you a little bit about how Clifton Strengths works.
Is zillion a real number? No, zillion's not a real number. But it is a word you might be tempted to use to describe all of the talents found in people. Creating a list of every talent is an impossible task. But if you step back, you'll see that talents have commonalities that allow us to group them into themes. Some talents like a natural ability to share thoughts, create engaging stories, and find the perfect word, relate directly to communication. That's what they have in common, a shared theme based on communication. So to begin thinking and talking about them, we can call them communication talents. Your distinct CliftonStrengths 34 profile sets you apart from everyone else. Your CliftonStrengths 34 profile is your talent DNA in rank order based on your responses to the CliftonStrengths assessment. The CliftonStrengths at the top of your profile are the most powerful. Similar to your fingerprint, these themes represent how you are uniquely talented. There are nearly 34 million possible combinations of top 5 themes. You heard right, nearly 34 million. Start with your top 5. Develop these CliftonStrengths to make the most of your profile and maximize your potential. Your greatest chance to succeed at work or anywhere else lies in strengthening what you naturally do best and doing more of it. Try this. First, name it. Carefully read the descriptions of each of your top 5 CliftonStrengths themes and identify parts of the theme descriptions that are undeniably you. Try to describe a recent situation when you used each theme. Next, claim it. Reflect on who you are. Think about your experiences, your motivations, how you see yourself. Then, consider how your strongest CliftonStrengths shape you, what you do, how you do it, and why. Share your report with people close to you. Ask for their reaction. Then, aim it. Post your top 5 themes from page 22 of your CliftonStrengths 34 report in a place where you'll see them every day. Start with the suggestions for action in the report. Then, try to find more ways to use your strongest CliftonStrengths in your daily activities. Your talents are an instinctive source of wisdom and power. And as you start to intentionally use your most dominant CliftonStrengths themes, you'll find ways to build on your greatest areas of potential. You have dynamic talents, just waiting to be unlocked and developed. Use your report to name, claim, and aim your most dominant CliftonStrengths themes.
So by now, some of you are probably coming up with some questions. And, whoops, that's not what I wanted. There we go. Some of you are probably coming up with some questions and have some things popping in your head. And I want to encourage you at the end in just about 15 to 20 minutes, I'm going to be taking questions. So I want to encourage you to put some questions in the chat. You can even put questions in now as they pop in the head. At any time as they pop in your head, please throw them in, and I'd be happy to answer them at the end of this time together. So I have a confession, and of course I'm a fan of CliftonStrengths and a certified coach in that way. But when I first got my report, my response to the report was, okay. Great. What do I do with this? And so it really wasn't something that really resonated deeply, or that I responded and had a eureka moment. My eureka moment came when I was in a group coaching session, and I engaged with an individual. I was in an individual coaching session, and we started talking. And as we were engaging, I was able to learn a little bit more about one of my top talents, and actually my top talent is Relator. That's my top Clifton strength. And so I learned more about Relator and what Relator was. And one of the things that I struggle with, and is a difficult thing, if we were to look at that list of check the box, say yes or no if. Say yes or no if you are, if you almost always have a great time at a trade show booth. For me, that would be an absolute no. And if you want to put me in a very special form of misery or of punishment, put me in a trade show booth. I hate being in trade show booths. You've got all these people walking by, and by the third person, I'm to the point where I'm like, get out of my face. I don't want to talk to you. Leave me alone. I want to go off to myself, or I want to go off and do something else. And I used to think that that was a flaw of some sort. And I'm sure that some of you are resonating with some of that, because half of you said you're not the type of person that, actively engages and talks to people and initiates conversations. Well, for me, I'm not one of those either. And so we started to talk about Relator. And a Relator, these are two CliftonStrengths themes. Relator is a relationship building theme. And people exceptionally talented in the Relator theme enjoy close relationships with each other. They find deep satisfaction in working hard with friends to achieve a goal. And they love close, caring, mutual relationships. These are people who want to go deep. That's who relators are. They want to go deep with a few people, more often than not in individual settings. Now, that can be compared to woo. And sometimes when you're looking at strengths, the best way to understand one strength is to compare it to another. And woo stands for winning others over. It's an acronym, actually. But people exceptionally talented in the woo theme love the challenge of meeting new people and winning them over. They derive satisfaction from breaking the ice and making a connection with someone. And one of the things that we love to say about people who have woo is a stranger is a friend they haven't met yet. They love meeting someone they haven't met before, and they love the engagement of building that new relationship. And so you put someone woo in the exposition booth or the trade show booth, and they're going to love it. They're going to have a great time. You put them in an Chamber of Commerce business after hours event, they're going to love that, and they're going to have a great time, and they're going to connect with everyone in the room. Well, that's not me. When I was in this session and I had this eureka moment, I looked at this and I'm like, wait a second. So that's why I'm struggling with trade show booths. That's why I struggle with that conference setting. It just doesn't resonate with me. And so here's how we applied it differently. We suddenly, I was able to go back to our team and say, you know what, here's some reasons why I'm not the best person to put in the booth. Instead, what we ended up doing is putting me up in the hospitality suite. And the people in the booth would schedule 1-hour sessions with me, and we would talk, and I'd have an hour to go deep with one person or two people versus a minute of cycling through, 3-minute conversations, one after another, or 30 seconds of, can I take this, or something like that. And suddenly I was happier, I was far more effective, and the people that were down in the booth were having a great time too. And that's the benefit. That's the impact that it can be. Now, the thing to think about, and this is one of the reasons why I love strengths in a great deal, is there's 5 guiding principles to strengths. The first is that themes are neutral. All themes are created equally good. And I love that because it honors the diversity within people. And we sometimes think of diversity, we often think of diversity as it relates to race, or we think of diversity as it relates to sexual identity or gender or to religion. But there's also incredible diversity that comes into just personality styles, into strengths and talents and abilities. And within CliftonStrengths, themes are all equal. So the person with woo is not better than the person with Relator, and the person with Relator is not better than the person with woo. We need both. We need someone to work the booth, and we need someone up in the hospitality suite closing the deal. And so that's part of that process. Themes are also not labels. So I was in a session. I was not the coach that did this. I was not the one that was involved in this, but I was in a CliftonStrengths session where there was someone who did not have any executing themes. And executing themes are themes that get things done in their top 10. And someone had said, I don't know how you get out of bed and make coffee in the morning. And that was a deeply painful comment to that individual. And so themes are not labels. We don't want to use them as labels. They are tools. They're not labels. And so whenever we put a label on someone that someone doesn't want, that doesn't help. And so we want to make sure that we are engaging in that way. Third is that we lead with positive intent. And so as we're thinking about that, leading with positive intent, why it helps us to understand someone else's strengths, because we can say, why would Tina do it that way versus this way? And there has to be a good reason why. And so it's a great way, when you understand that principle, to engage with someone like that. Differences are advantages. You actually need the differences, and I'm going to show you something about why differences are advantages in just a second. And people need one another. We are better together. So I'm seeing some questions pop up in the chat. I'm really encouraged by that. Please keep your questions coming, and then we'll answer those at the end. So here's the thing. Well-rounded people are dull. We often say you should be well-rounded. We want to be well-rounded citizens. We want to be well-rounded professionals. But the problem is well-rounded people are dull. And here is why. So if this star represents a person's strengths and abilities, a well-rounded person looks like this. And what it means is that in order to get this dip, this weakness up, we have to invest energy in that to get that up. Well, where does that energy come from? It comes from lowering your strength. And so you have this trade-off, because you can either invest in a strength to become and make it be your superpower, or you can invest in your weakness to make it mediocre. And so again, for me, I just really shouldn't be spending a lot of time in spreadsheets. I shouldn't be spending a lot of time in trade booths, because if I do that, what ends up happening is that my strength goes down and my weakness, yes, it goes up, and I become this well-rounded person that is actually dull. Instead, teams should be well-rounded, not people. As the teams come together and they engage with each other, what you end up seeing is a well-rounded team. And we are able to use each other, leverage each other's strengths. And that's where we say differences are advantages when you're on a team, because those differences come together and you're able to leverage the differences and be able to say, all right, this isn't my greatest strength, but this is Brian's greatest strength. We want to use Brian's strength in this, and Brent's strength will be here and Tina's strength is going to be there. So those are ways that we can engage. Now, there's 4 domains of team strength. And one of them is executing. This is all about getting things done. These are the talents that are related to getting things done. I'll point out just one of them. Achiever. Those of you who love to check boxes and create that list for the weekend, odds are good you have Achiever fairly high in your CliftonStrengths. If you are the type of person who goes back to your list and writes something down that you just completed so that you can check it off, you're most likely an achiever. Influencing strengths. These are the most rare strengths that are out there. So a rare domain that is out there. We've already talked about woo. Woo is about going out and influencing people to like you and to like your program or like your brand very quickly. And they build relationships quickly, or they build that connection quickly. Relationship building is the third domain. And we've talked about Relator. Relator is a theme that goes deep with people and engages with them quickly, or engages with them deeply, building trust and allowing that relationship to actually leverage and solve problems. And then strategic thinking is the last one, is the last domain. And analytical, we've talked a little about spreadsheets and being able to look at large sections of data. That's an analytical theme. Those of you who ask lots and lots of questions, input might be very high for you because you love to get information in and take it all in together. Now, how does this all apply to a team? Well, here is these 4 domains for 5 different people on a team. And what you can see, there's one really obvious trend, is that this team does not have anyone with strong influencing skills at their highest level. And so that doesn't mean they can't be influential. Someone, you can use an executing theme to be influential. They can use a strategic thinking theme. Because of their knowledge, they can still be influential. It just means that they might have to put more work into it. And so as a team like this, one of the things that you may want to do is say, you know what, we're not as well-rounded as we want to be as a team. Our stars are lining up and we've got a gap. And that's where bringing in someone with an influencing background might be helpful depending on the team, what the team actually does and how they function. Here's another example. If Tracy and Heather happen to have a project that they need to work together with, or potentially they have a conflict that they're engaging with, that they are engaged in. And so they either have to resolve a conflict or they have a project that they can look at their different talents and be able to say, okay, so why would Tracy be so pushy, or why would she sometimes be so demanding? Well, it might be her command that's coming out. And that command, that very commanding presence, is something that I haven't quite come to grips with, or I haven't processed in how to engage with her. Maybe I could use my relator to connect with her relator so that her command can go down. Or maybe it's I need to leverage my individualization and be more careful with how she, more accepting of how she engages. Maybe there's a way that we can leverage her command. There might be some ways where when you're looking at a type of project where you say, all right, we're going to put Tracy in the booth and we're going to put Heather up in the hospitality suite, based on the project. And so you when you divide and conquer, you can divide and conquer based on the strengths that you have. So as we are wrapping up here, and I love to see the questions. I'm going to be taking questions in about 3 or 4 minutes. But a lot of profiles, Myers-Briggs type indicator, DISC, the Enneagram, CliftonStrengths, emotional intelligence profiles, they're nice information. They're good information. And you look at that and you say, okay, interesting. Great. That's what that is. Too many people sit and stay at the name it. And so they read the themes, they read the report, they say, oh, my MBTI is this. My Myers-Briggs type indicator is this, or my DISC profile is this. They may name it and say, yep, that's what it is. They may even claim it and say, yep, I have that. I own that. But unfortunately, where a lot of these profiles and a lot of these assessments and models fail is because people don't take it beyond that. And the real purpose of all of these, and especially Clifton Strengths, is to aim it, to be able to say, how could I use this information? How could I use this theme more intentionally? How could I use my individual and unique talents? I'm 1 in 34 million. My top 5, 1 in 34 million. By the way, all 134 themes, if you were to put them in order, there's actually the odds of having 2 people with the same is 1 with 39 zeros behind it. I can't even say the number. So 1 to the 39th power is how many, what your odds are of getting all 34 in order. So I'm going to take these strengths. I need to aim them. I can't just take a look at this report and say, yep, that's me. You're not going to get the benefit. You have to very intentionally aim it. And you can either do that by being very focused and intentional yourself. You can talk to a friend or a partner or a colleague about your strengths and engage with them. Or you can engage with a coach. And a coach to help you learn your strengths, learn how to apply, whether it be DISC or Myers-Briggs or other things, so that you can actually engage it and leverage that for the benefit of you and for the benefit of your team. And if you and your team do this, you can take it to an even higher level. So name it, claim it, and aim it, and you're going to find some great success. So, we are running to the questions, and I see a number of questions up on the chat already. There's no more effective way to empower people than to see each person in terms of his or her strengths. You see them in their strengths, and you can leverage that. You're going to honor them, you're going to build them up, and you're going to help them be incredibly effective. it's going to give you a language that's going to take your work to a higher level. And so before I let you go, I have my email and my phone number on the screen. If I can help you in any way, don't ever hesitate to contact me. With that, Tina, do we have some questions?
Certainly have some questions for you. Thank you
Good.
so
I love
much
that.
for the presentation this morning. We have some questions still coming in, but for those of you who haven't had an opportunity to write in a question, please do so, because we have about 30 minutes left, I believe. So good amount of, or 20 minutes left. So let's get started here. Kind of as a level setting question, I'm really curious about this Clifton Strengths assessment. How do I get that assessment?
Okay, so there's a couple ways that you can do that. One is that you can go to Gallup itself, gallup.com, and fill out their form there. And it's about a 45-minute assessment. They give you, it's actually kind of popcorned at you. Every 20 seconds, they give you another question, whether you finish it or not. They're moving. Essentially what they're doing is they're giving you two different dichotomies. So are you this or are you this? And so the cost of the full, and I recommend the full 34. Gallup does sell the top 5. I just don't find it as productive or as effective. And so I recommend that you get the full 34, and that costs, I think through Gallup, $50. If you order it through me, you can get it for $43. I don't mark up on it. And so you can reach out to me and I can get that set for you as well. So you get a 25-page report with that, and that assessment then will give you a wide range of information, not only on your top 10, but it also gives you some information on what to do with those strengths, some good questions that are engaged. And I recommend that after you get your report, share it with your partner or your spouse. Share it with your friends or a business colleague. If you have a supervisor or an assistant, share it with them and say, hey, where do you see this engaging, and where do you see my strengths? How do I build those up?
Okay. So we have someone here who would like to retake their strengths, and it looks like prior to the pandemic, they just want to see kind of what changes have been made. So like how would they do this?
So they can take it again.
Okay.
Gallup does not recommend taking it again, frankly. The research shows that the first time you take it, unless you took it when you're very, very young. So if you took it in your teens or your early 20s, and you're 45 or 50, that might be a good time to retake it. But Gallup doesn't recommend taking it again. It has a reliability of 0.71. What you're going to see some shifting happening within the themes, but you're not going to see a massive. It's very rare to see something like, if Maximizer was your number 2, it's very unlikely that it's going to drop to 18 or 20. And so the benefit of taking it again, save your money would be my recommendation, and leverage the strengths that you have.
Right. Do strengths change with age?
They can to an extent, but very subtly. Again, if you take them in your young professional years and you take it later, yes, you might see some adjustments, but generally there's not a major change over time. They might change. I mean, honestly, if you take the test, I use that reliability number of 0.71. The way to think about that is when you have reliability, perfect reliability is a 1, perfect negative reliability is a -1. And so a blood test, for example, to test your blood type, that may have a reliability of a 0.9 something. I should look that up actually to find out what that reliability would be. That'd be interesting to know. But maybe someone knows that. Do we have any doctors on, or lab technicians or phlebotomists on the line that can throw that in the chat? But every time you take it, every time I take a blood type test, my blood type is going to come back as A positive. With Clifton Strengths, it has a high level of reliability, but that level of reliability, it's not a 1, it's 0.71. And so what that means is that every time if I take it 2 hours later, it's going to be slightly different. the numbers might be adjusted just slightly. And so pick your first one and go with it. That'd be my advice.
So we have a comment and a question here. I love Strengths Finders. Can you talk about how your top 10 can fluctuate? And then what Gallup told me was not to just focus on the top 5.
Okay. So, and this is Therese that had answered that, asked that question. And I'm glad you love strengths. I love strengths too. And so your top 10, here's the way I like to think about it. The reason that I like the top 30, or I like the full 34 report, is that it puts more color into the picture. Instead of just if you think about a crayon box, and so you remember the crayon box was just 8 colors. And so you have just the 8 colors in the crayon box. I've never used this metaphor before. I'm engaging in this right now. My ideation talent is kind of coming out at the moment. But you get the crayon box with the 64 colors in it. And all of a sudden, your ability to paint a more complete picture comes out. And so what that's really helpful is being able to not only know what are your dominant strengths, those are the strengths at the top, but what are your lesser strengths, those are the strengths that are at the bottom, and how you can leverage those. Absolutely. So I agree, Therese, getting more than the top 5 is really important. They can adjust, but a better way to think about it is like a soundboard. So you have different sliders, and there's some times when you want to bring I want to bring my command into a situation and take command of a situation. There's other times when I need to bring my command down, and I need to bring my relator up, or I need to bring my my learner up, and be able to kind of adjust what tools I use. In the kitchen or in the workshop, you're not always using a hammer. You're not always using a spatula. Sometimes you need to use a saw, and sometimes you need to use a chef's knife, or sometimes you need to use a stand mixer or something else like that. And so you don't always use the same tools at the same time, and that's where strengths comes in, understanding what tools you use best.
So is it true that we shouldn't ignore a weakness completely to focus on strengths? How do we determine the balance between focusing on strengths and weaknesses?
I think that's a great question. So it's not about not focusing on weaknesses. It's more about when you acknowledge your weaknesses and kind of look at those weaknesses, you can then say, all right, what do I do to overcome them? Instead of working on I'll use my spreadsheet example again. There are 3 ways. There are 3 ways to overcome a weakness. One is to leverage one of your other strengths. And so for me, my spreadsheet challenge might be, is an issue. Analytical is low on mine, on my talents. But sometimes I bring up my strategic thinking theme to leverage that. Or I'll use my responsibility where I have to get this done. It has to be done right. I'm going to learn it. I'm going to fight my way through it, and I'll get it done. So you can leverage other talents. A second way is to delegate. You know what? I'm terrible at spreadsheets, but Tina is amazing at spreadsheets. You give her a spreadsheet, and good Lord, she's going to be awesome. And she's smiling at this saying, nope, that's not me either. And so I could delegate that. Although Tina's my boss's boss's boss, perhaps I wouldn't be delegating to her, but I could delegate that to her and say, Tina, do the spreadsheet. That would be another option. A third option would be to partner. And so I know Tina's great at spreadsheets. She's not, but I know she's great at spreadsheets, and I'm not good at spreadsheets, but I need to be engaged with it. Tina, would you work with me? Let's partner together to accomplish that. So it takes some self-awareness to know this is an area I'm not great at. Instead of fighting my way through it, I need to find other ways to accomplish that. But I think, unfortunately, a lot of the mentality is, hey, here's a weakness. You really need to work on this to get better. Well, I'm not sure that that's a great investment. I know it's not a great investment of my time. I would present that it's not necessarily a great investment in your time either.
So in your example, Tracy had high Relator and Woo scores. Is that unusual?
No. Mm-mm. See that all the time. And it's a great combination.
So what if you have a great team, but most of the strengths are similar and you have gaps in some areas across the team? When changing team members or hiring more team members aren't options, how do you address the fact that this team isn't necessarily well-rounded?
Okay. Well, some teams don't need to be well-rounded, real honestly. So it depends on what well-rounded in the standpoint of, so if you have let's say you have a very analytical, say you're working in a very analytical program of some sort, whether it be a science-based or whether it be maybe it's you work in a data center or something like that, where you need that high strategic thinking themes. And you really need that, and you need the high executing themes. That's not necessarily where you need someone with great sales skills and great influencing skills. You might not need that there. At the same time, you have perhaps you have a customer service area where you might not need high analytical skills in that area. You really need the good relationship building skills and the influencing skills in that space. And so if you don't, number one, you need to decide, do we really need that or not? The second thing is if you don't have it and you're not in a place where you can hire for it, then you go back to those three. Can we leverage other talents? Can we delegate it to someone else? So we might send it to a different department, or we might hire a consultant, or bring in something else, or can we partner with someone that can help us benefit with it? And that's where, frankly, a coach can come in and help you come up with strategies to address that as well.
Okay, so we've got one last question here from Nikki. As a strengths coach, do you assist with leveraging our strengths, or do you recommend or who do you recommend we contact to help us find our top 5?
A strengths coach can absolutely help in those processes and engaging. And coaching is an interesting process in itself, where coaching is not necessarily where you bring in an expert like a consultant, where they say, this is what you should do. Coaches help you to engage in who you are. And Tina, you're an expert in who you are. You know yourself better than most people. Maybe your partner knows you better, knows you very well, but you know yourself. I don't know you super well. But as a coach, I can ask you questions and clarify and build things that can help you learn yourself better and learn and develop strategies better that work for you. And so that's where a coach can be really beneficial. You don't need a coach to do this, though. You can show this to a partner and just say, hey, what do you think about this? You can show it to a colleague and get their perspectives as well. So there's lots of ways to engage in it. The key is that you not only want to name it and claim it, you want to aim it and actually think about, what can I do to put this to use? So thank you for the opportunity to share today and present. This has been an honor and something that I absolutely love. If I can ever be of assistance to you, please don't hesitate to contact me either through LinkedIn or through my email or my phone number. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And that was very catchy at the very end. I'm going to have to remember that or reach out to you again to get that. So thank you everyone for attending today's session. We hope you enjoyed it and learned a thing or two. If you are looking for additional professional development, please be sure to check out our website for upcoming executive and professional education opportunities. A couple of programs that I'd like to highlight coming up soon are Six Sigma Yellow Belt starting December 8th and the Mini MBA, which runs the week of December 13th. Please be sure to sign up for Brent's future course offerings in the fundraising series as well. St. Thomas also works alongside organizations to develop custom educational programs to cultivate talent and build new capabilities. So if your organization has a learning need or you'd like to see more of Brent in person, we'd hope you consider exploring an opportunity to partner with us in that realm. Don't forget to register for our December online learning series if you haven't already done so. And please be sure to tell your network about our series. Thank you so much for joining us at the University of St. Thomas this morning. Following this session, I'm hoping that you're able to leverage your strengths to enhance team performance. I hope you have a wonderful day. Be well, and we'll see you next time.